One, Chad likes to co.
Hey, Coach. Wanted to ask you about Bennett Sturts. Do you feel like a player of the year? I know you voted on this before. A player of the year in the league should come from one of the top teams. And if you were to make a case for Bennett, where would you start?
Yeah, I'm probably not as into postseason awards as I should be. Obviously, I think that if you win, I think if you win the league, I think it's hard to not pick somebody from that team. From the top couple teams is kind of always been my theory. Um, that's kind of been my theory. I think Bennett for us has been obviously a lot, and it's pretty well documented. But I try not to get too into postseason awards, just kind of by nature. And then, if they happen, they happen. If they don't, they don't. But ultimately, your objective is to win games, and I would guess Bennett would probably say the same.
Tom Kakert.
Coach, first time you get to see Wisconsin on the court, what are your thoughts on what you've seen from them? I'm guessing you've seen a lot of them and watching cross tape and stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously they can really score it. Their offense is, I think, probably top 10 in the country. Um, they've had games where they just really shockingly beat teams, whether it's at Michigan, they really did a good job versus Michigan State. They've just had some big, big wins and some tough wins. And so obviously they can really score it. Very talented, stick to their stuff. Those two guards really get in the paint quite a bit. And then their bigs can shoot and they're pretty physical as well. So it'll be a tough test for us.
Tyler.
Hey Ben, after an emotional high of the Nebraska game, what do you feel like the keys are to make sure that you guys are emotionally ready to play in another game?
I mean, at this point in the season, if you get too high and low, we probably haven't done a great job of teaching you. I don't think that is that big of an issue because we talk about it constantly, making sure that we're pretty process focused. And a lot of the excitement and enthusiasm surrounding it is making sure that we create an atmosphere that does celebrate those things, particularly from a fan's perspective, more so than a player perspective. I think the guys, it was nice for them to be able to see that, to be able to see what they can build eventually. But, it's just like for me, beating Nebraska is very similar to beating anybody else. Um, I think the biggest difference is from a fan perspective, there's a level of excitement that you want to join in with. And that's what our kids were able to do.
Chris.
Yeah, Ben. Going back to Wisconsin, just them having two, I don't think they're both 20-point scores right now, but 120, 119. I don't know how many times you've versed two high caliber scores in the same team, but what do you think are some of the challenges that they could pose to your defense?
Yeah, I mean they get so downhill. They just live in the paint. And those bigs really shoot it. They do a good job of putting in position to getting in the paint. They play fairly fast, probably middle tier of the league, I think. Um, so yeah, they pose a lot of problems. I mean, their whole offense does. They're just really good offensively. They can beat you in so many different ways. So, our objective is to make sure we play our defense and, hope that that's good enough.
Tom.
Curious, Coach, you've observed the Big Ten your whole life. You've got 5 games left in this first season as a Big Ten coach. What's the biggest thing you've learned, maybe that you didn't know coming into this? What it's like in the Big Ten?
Not a lot that I didn't already know. I mean, like I've said before, I think it's just the level of player is just a little bit different from 1 through 8. I mean, it's just there's so many good players at these levels. Maybe maybe it surprises you that you play Nebraska and now you have to go on the road to Wisconsin. Maybe that's something, but I kind of knew that coming in. It's just when it happens, you're just like, oh, now we get to go to Wisconsin, and then we get to go to, I don't know who we play after that, but I know we have Michigan coming up, and I know we got North or not Northwestern Penn State coming up, and like it's just relentless. It's just every game's, hey, here's another one, here's another one, and you know that, and you're prepared for that, but it still surprises you.
Chad.
So I think you faced 13 of the 17 Big Ten opponents so far. What how many of those 13, like how much different stuff does Bennett face night in and out, night out, and how have you seen him handle that? The attention obviously he gets on the scouting report.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like every night's, exponentially different based on what kind of defenders they have, what their system says to do, all those different things. I think from a team perspective, that's where it's the hardest because we do want the ball to move. We're better when it moves. We're better when it flows. But certain games are a little bit trickier because they may not help off certain guys, or they may help off this guy, or their help comes from a variety of areas, and so then you have to adapt your whole deal to that. So it's nothing that we haven't seen. I'm meaning I've seen it for years and years. I think the difference is probably the shot blocking, and then the length of those guys if they do shrink the floor on you. Is probably the two things that are the biggest differences.
Tyler.
The offense, your guys' offense was really good in the Pacific Northwest. But with all due respect, it's kind of taken a nosedive the last four games. I realized too that there's obviously a defense trying to stop you guys, but what have you seen offensively like the last four games, and how can you try to improve that moving forward?
Yeah, and some of it's matchup based too, meaning certain teams match up a little bit better with us than others. And so you might see that too. I would say, who did we play when we came back? Um,
Northwestern.
who did we play when we Northwestern. Northwestern is a unique matchup for us, just because they have a lot of little guards, that can really get underneath you. And so then you're pounding it inside because they're switching. And then you go to Maryland, who switches defenses pretty consistently, where they play that zone, the matchup zone, back to man. And then they're a little bit tricky. And then Nebraska obviously is really unique in a lot of ways, just because of the way their side defense. So a lot of that's matchup based, but how can we get back to it? I think we just have to make sure that we get to the next actions a little bit more consistent. I mean, that's always what our thing is we have to get to the next action. I think that people see did in Oregon, and I thought the ball moved better than it ever has at Oregon. And I don't know how many points he had. He had a lot, but it wasn't because it stuck. It was because it flowed and then it flowed back to him. The ball was stuck against Nebraska, but that's what we had to do because of the way they were defending, to be able to win the game. And so certain games dictate certain things. And so, I mean, ultimately, I think we need to move the basketball, um, get it from action to action, and then be able to punish things. Part of it too is, teams may be forcing Bennett to beat them. That's a part of it where it's like, hey, we'll take everybody else out and make Bennett beat us. So that everybody else can't get going, or vice versa. So like a lot of that's matchup dictated.
Chris.
Yeah, going to the defense. I know you said previously in the season that with guys like Hazen and Urak, it's more of a defensive thing than an offensive thing with them. Just looking at the personnel, Fulgaris, Howard, it seems like a lot of guys that could switch 1 through 4, 1 through 5. Is that the goal on defense, is to have a very adjustable and switchable defense, or what's kind of the process behind your defensive lineups?
Yeah, I think it's just guys that can really move their feet. So we try to our objective, even going forward in the recruiting process, is to find guys that can shoot, drive, and defend their position. And we're probably not there yet, just because it's the nature of it. And so you're a little bit different than you ultimately want to be. But that doesn't mean you can't be just as good, if not better. And so, um, specific to like Isaiah Howard, Isaiah Howard can guard a lot of different positions. Tavion Banks can guard a lot of different positions. And so those guys can not only guard their position, but they can also guard other positions as well, which allows them to be on the floor, as often as we can get them on the floor. And that's a big deal. When you can only guard a shooter, or you can only guard a driver, you can only guard a big guy, then it becomes more difficult because the versatility of the opponent's lineup dictates whether you play or how much you play.
Tyler?
I'm curious with Nick Boyd being so left-hand dominant, like what challenges that presents from a game plan perspective as someone who is so dominant with one hand that is kind of the opposite of what most people are with their right hand.
Nothing more than we faced. I mean, you just have to adjust it to that hand, I guess. I don't know that we dictate a ton in regards to, which directions they're going to go, just because our defense doesn't say to do that. But nothing like unique. It's just more the fact that those two guards are really dynamic, and they've got two of them, and then they've got bigs that can really shoot. And so that's probably more so than a guy going one way or the other.
All right, last two questions, Coach. Chad?
Yeah, when you're looking for offense, I mean, 57 points here in back-to-back games is Brendan Hossen more viable as an option, or what maybe would be holding you back from putting him in more when you're searching for offense there?
Yeah, I think again, Nebraska was probably just a one-off deal. I mean, if you notice, Nebraska does a great job in the second half of every game. I mean, they dominate teams in the second half. And a lot of that is because that defense just absolutely wears on you over time. And then they get out in transition, and then they hit you for a 10-0 run, and then their defense settles in and you can't score. And so you do have to control the game a little bit. Would that help? It really depends. I didn't think we had horrible shots. I just thought the rhythm and the ball movement wasn't very good. But I don't know that playing different bodies helps that. I think a lot of that's just their defense, and the way they do things probably hurts it more. I think the thing that you would want more is probably another guy that can drive. A guy that can drive, attack paint, kick out, and do some different things, drive and shoot. And that's a big deal where it's not just drive or the ability to shoot, it's the ability to do both. And so I'm not sure that would have done a ton in the Purdue game. That was just kind of one of those games that we just were awful. So just kind of don't even watch that game.
All right, last question, Coach. Chris?
Yeah, Coach, I'm sure you saw, but the university put out a statement about the incident with Fred Hoiberg and the phone. Just you being a coach as well. I just want to know your thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, I think I've been a part of the other side of court stormings, like we've talked about quite a bit. I think that for me, the way I view them is not that you're that excited about that specific win, because I just don't really get that excited about specific wins. I just never have. I remember when we won the national title in 17, the first one, and I got done, and I'm like, boy, I thought it was supposed to be like that much more of a euphoric experience. But what it does is it allows you to engage with your fans on a little more personal level. I think anytime you do that, you want to do it with some, safety measures and whatnot. I, I can't tell. I didn't pay attention to all the riffraff and to see what was going on, if they got people off or, I don't know, if it was secure or whatever. I felt fine, but I was the coach for Iowa, so it's different there. No, I don't think you should storm the court every other game. Specific to that situation, um, I mean, I I don't know. I'm not in the situation, so I don't have a clue what I would have done. Do I think that he was bad for knocking somebody's phone out of their hand? No, but like I'm not in the situation, so I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, it's kind of what happens if you do those things, I guess. I don't really know to answer your question. I didn't
All right,
honestly,
thank you, Coach.
when I got done with the situation, I didn't think any of it was like the end of the world. I thought I know Fred. I don't know Fred. I know him enough. He is classy and calm, and so if he felt like that was then I would agree with him because I know how he is as a person. So I guess I can't. That's about all I can say about that one.